President instructs to minimize public gatherings. Steps will be taken to disinfect public transport from tomorrow. There is no shortage of essential items. Government requests not to spread false information. Sri Lankans will not be permitted to travel overseas for employment until further notice. Travel ban imposed on 8 European countries. SB Dissanayake reveals that President has written to the SLPP requesting to refrain from nominating corrupt individuals to contest the election.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Bernadine Singha. I'm sure that all our viewers are aware that we as a country are going through a trying time, and the cooperation of each and every citizen in the efforts to combat the coronavirus is of paramount importance. Also, as we at News First have continued to stress that it is essential that you rely on true and accurate information regarding the situation in the country. To bring you a comprehensive report on the current situation, standing by at the News First News Center is Charlene Benedict and Azra San.
Thank you very much, Bernadine. Of course, the most recent update that we received about the situation right here in Sri Lanka is that 3 new patients have been identified to have contracted the coronavirus or COVID-19 right here in Sri Lanka, bringing the total number of confirmed cases right now, currently in Sri Lanka, to 5. That is with 2 more patients who were identified previously within this very week. But of course, before we bring you the exact details about the situation well here at home and abroad, let's take a look at where this virus originated from. Of course, it's a known fact that this virus originated from Wuhan, China. What exactly is the situation in China? We knew that China, many cases were reported in China. However, currently, countries like Italy, South Korea, Iran are dominating the headlines for the massive number of coronavirus cases, while China is systematically bringing this virus under control. Currently, there were many hospitals that were constructed in China over a matter of few days, having thousands of beds that were able to accommodate thousands of patients. But of course, with the Chinese authorities systematically bringing this virus under control, these hospitals have now been closed down. And the footage that you are witnessing is footage of these hospitals closing down, and the medical staff that were serving at these hospitals, leaving these hospitals as they have done their job, and they have been successful in successfully curbing the spread of this virus in China, which is by far the worst affected country in the world by COVID-19. But of course, that is how China responded to this entire virus. Right here in Sri Lanka, we only have, for now, 5 cases. There are a little over 60 suspected cases that are receiving treatment currently at the IDH hospital. Azra, we know the steps that have been taken by the government and authorities in response to this coronavirus. But what do you feel about the response of the general public to this coronavirus? Have we successfully responded to this virus and assisted the authorities in helping curb the spread of this virus?
Charlene, before we go into detail about the current situation in the country, let's take a trip down the memory lane. This is not the first time Sri Lanka as a nation faced a calamity. In 2004, we faced a tsunami where more than 30,000 people were killed. We had a 30-year-long civil war where the country was almost destroyed. We faced floods, droughts, you name it. Sri Lanka went through so many problems bigger than the pandemic that we're experiencing now. But amidst all of these problems, one specialty that we noticed the Sri Lankans did was that Sri Lankans faced these problems as one country, as one nation. We stood up together, we held hands with each other, we were the strength of each other. But Given all of that, Charlene, given the history that we had, it was very disappointing to see the response and the way we reacted yesterday when the pandemic coronavirus was heavily discussed in the country. Charlene, I'll remind you one simple fact. Sri Lanka is an example in this entire world when it comes to generosity. Foreigners love visiting Sri Lanka because of the hospitality that we offer, because of the selfless people, the generous people, people with good hearts. But Charlene, with all of that, special qualities that we as Sri Lankans possess, yesterday's situation was very saddening. We saw when news bulletins were headlines saying that there was a pandemic going on in the country with this number of people tested positive for coronavirus. We saw people running into supermarkets and just trying to stock everything up so they can have a good week or two. But did anyone take a minute and stop just to think about someone who earns a daily wage? How is that person going to afford to buy stocks of essential food items just so they can have a good week or two? Did we actually take a minute, take a deep breath and think about if we are unnecessarily panicking about this situation? No, Charlene, that is not what we witnessed yesterday. Although the authorities assured the nation that proper measures have been taken, proper actions have been taken to curb the spread of the coronavirus, we ran into fuel stations, we ran to supermarkets just to make sure that we will not have a shortage of food items when we forgot to think about everyone else in the country. Charlene?
Azra, you spoke about the measures that have been taken by the government. Of course, an investigation has been launched to identify the sites or the locations that were visited by these patients who have now tested positive for coronavirus. This investigation was launched today collectively by officials of the Colombo Municipal Council and the Ministry of Health. Of course, speaking about the 3 new cases that were identified right this evening, the first case is a 41-year-old male who recently visited Germany. He is now receiving treatment at the IDH. The second being a 37-year-old male from Italy who was sent to the Kandagatua quarantine facility in Polonnarua. He is currently receiving treatment at the Polonnarua General Hospital. And the third confirmed case of corona that was reported today, this evening, 43-year-old male from Italy who was also sent to the Kandagatua quarantine zone. He is currently being treated at the IDH hospital as well. These 3 new cases, or the 3 new patients who tested positive for COVID-19 today, brings the total number of positive COVID-19 patients here in Sri Lanka to 5.
Who tested positive for COVID-19 are currently being treated at the Institute of Infectious Diseases in Angoda.
There are about 60 people who were in contact with the first patient. That is a large number. About 25 have been in contact with the second patient. About 5 people who were in contact with the first patient have been hospitalized. An additional 8 people who were in contact with the second patient have been hospitalized as well. We will receive reports on them soon. That is how we will be able to identify their condition. We have mainly put the others on home quarantine. They are being quarantined at their homes.
නිවසෙහි නිරෝධනය කිරීම home quarantine.
දැනට ડોක්ටර් මේ රෝගීන් දෙදෙනාගේ වර්තමාන තත්ත්වය කුමක්ද?
ඒ රෝගීන් දෙදෙනාගෙන්
The first patient is 52 years old. The second patient is 44 years old. The second patient is still in the same condition he was when he was first admitted. The second patient is a patient suffering with diabetes and high blood pressure. He also has certain infections in his lungs. We believe that he can be cured and discharged from hospital.
කිසි පෙනහළුවල ආසාදනයක් තියෙනවා.
දෙවෙනි රෝගියාගේ ඥාතීන් රෝහල්ගත කරලා තිබෙනවද මේ වෙන විට?
ඔව් ඔය 8 දෙනා කියන්නේ ඒ ගෙදර ඥාතීන්.
The Ministry of Health said that 64 patients who are suspected to have been contracted the virus have been hospitalized. 20 of them, including a foreign national, are under the supervision of the National Institute of Infectious Diseases. 1 person is being treated at the National Hospital and another 5 are being treated at the Dragama Teaching Hospital. 6 are being treated at the Karapiti Teaching Hospital and 7 patients suspected to have contracted the virus are being treated in Kurunagala and Kandy. 2 suspected patients are at the Anuradhapura Hospital and 1 at the Jaffna Hospital. Both the Gampaha and Nigambo hospitals are treating 5 suspected patients each. The Health Ministry confirmed that 2 suspected patients are being treated at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital.
කොරෝනා රෝගය සම්බන්ධයෙන් ශ්‍රී ලාංකික පුරවැසියෝ
Sri Lankans do not have to worry or panic about the coronavirus. Only 2 confirmed cases have been reported in Sri Lanka so far. Those who have been diagnosed with the virus are those who had associated with tourists and foreign nationals. A Chinese national tested positive for the virus some time ago. However, none of the tour guides or the members of the tour group that she travelled with had contracted the virus. For one to contract the virus, you must maintain very close relationship with those who have contracted the virus. The situation in Sri Lanka is not very serious, and therefore we do not need to panic. We must practice precautionary measures and try our best to control the spread of the virus. As the Ministry of Health, we have made special arrangements formulated on a scientific basis to address this issue. It is best if everyone refrains from holding public gatherings and events. We urge the public to refrain from attending sporting events. Even schools and universities should be limited for some time. These measures have been taken not to frighten the general public, but to prevent and minimize any possible spread of the virus. We should not panic. We must all act wisely. Sri Lanka is safe. We are constantly monitoring the situation very closely. Any individual suspected to have contracted the virus will be admitted to the hospital immediately. Do not let time-serving people take advantage of such a situation. Those who arrive in the island from overseas should remember that they may be carrying the virus. They should not skip the quarantine process. If they do so, it will be their children and their family members who will be affected by this. If a person suspects that he or she has contracted the virus, it is their duty and responsibility to go for self-quarantine.
බීජේ නෑ කියලා පැහැදිලිව දැනගෙන තමන්ගේ ආදරණීය පවුලට එකතු වෙන්න.
It's very important that a person who shows the initial signs of the COVID-19 virus get themselves tested to see if they have in fact contracted the virus or if it's just a common flu or something of the sort. But according to countries around the world are facing problems with testing for this virus. Taking a look at here in Sri Lanka, where exactly can a person get themselves tested for this virus? Now, do private hospitals offer this service? Speaking at a media briefing today, Director General of Health Services, Dr. Anil Jas Singha, addressed this issue.
The doctors at the IDH and other hospitals in which these patients are admitted determine which patient should undergo a PCR test. We have set up a medical research institute. We are happy to note that testing is carried out at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital, Kandy National Hospital and the Anuradhapura Teaching Hospital. That is very convenient. Attention has been drawn towards carrying out these tests at the Colombo North Teaching Hospital as well. There could be instances in which a person might want to undergo testing to determine whether he or she has been affected by the coronavirus. Therefore, we carry out tests on these persons after incorporating them into the government's health apparatus. Now we are deciding on how this testing can be handed over to the private sector. If that happens, then there are 2 issues. The first is that this test should be carried out only when required. Otherwise, this would become commercialized. The other issue is that reasonable fares should be charged. This test cannot be used for one's advantage. At this time, we expect the private sector to carry out a mechanism with concessionary benefits to the public. Journalists raise questions on the decision to refrain from quarantining passengers arriving from China. There is an epidemic curve which shows the cases of the disease in China has almost reached the highest point of the epidemic curve. People from China's Hubei province cannot come into the country. The Chinese government has prevented its citizens from leaving the country. Chinese workers are quarantined for 14 days in our country. Several areas in China have been on lockdown, unlike Italy. We saw on social media how mounds of sand were used to obstruct the roads. That is why we are not sending the Chinese to our quarantine centers.
නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථාන වලට යැවීම නැවැත්තුවේ.
Now, the response of the entire country to curbing the spread of this global pandemic is being coordinated by the responsible authorities. Now, today, the President's Media Division said that the government has taken several important decisions on curbing the spread of the coronavirus based on the instructions of the President and the Prime Minister. These decisions had been made during a meeting that was held with the participation of responsible officials and the President, and it was held at the Presidential Secretariat today.
Some of the decisions include the suspension of visas for European citizens for 2 weeks, providing quarantine facilities for Sri Lankans arriving from Europe for 14 days, disinfecting vehicles used for public transport, and to study the steps taken by China to curb the spread of the virus. The President has also instructed to set up an office of the Presidential Task Force on the prevention of coronavirus to collect data and to make the relevant decisions. While issuing instructions to avoid places of public gathering, attention was also drawn towards the usage of internet to provide services such as education. The President's Media Division stated that the discussion had also focused on the distribution of face masks to be available for purchasing, and that the President had instructed to ensure that face masks are sold at a market retail price.
It is important to limit arrivals from other countries. The number of cases from European countries has been gradually increasing. We should take a decision to suspend arrivals from Europe for at least 2 weeks. When compared to other countries, I feel that Sri Lanka was one of the most successful countries in terms of taking preventive measures. The steps taken by other countries are publicized, as opposed to the steps taken by our country. No one had launched a presidential task force when we introduced one. The Ministry of Health has taken the relevant steps since the beginning.
The general public is panicking over this situation unnecessarily. This is mainly due to the sharing of unverified information through social media. We witnessed panic buying yesterday as the people began panicking over this situation. There is no reason to panic. During today's meeting with the President and the Presidential Task Force on the prevention of coronavirus, it was reiterated that the government has taken all relevant steps to control the situation. The public does not have to create unnecessary fear in this regard. The government is doing the needful to restore this situation back to normalcy. These efforts would be hampered if fear is created unnecessarily. We urge the public once again to avoid panicking and to have confidence in the information disseminated officially by the government while carrying out their daily activities instead of believing in false messages that are associated with ulterior motives.
අතහරිමින් මේ කටයුතු සමන්ගේ ජන ජීවිතය සාමාන්‍ය පරිදි ගෙනියන්න කියලා.
The Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy emphasized that there is no fuel shortage in the country. Now, issuing a statement, the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy said that there is no truth to the rumors spread on a shortage of fuel in the country. Now, it adds that the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has sufficient stocks of fuel. According to a statement by the Government Information Department, the general public need not have any fear about a shortage of fuel, as the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation will continue to ensure fuel distribution is uninterrupted across the country and that it will take place continuously. Now, of course, as we mentioned earlier on in the news bulletin, people were lining up at fuel stations yesterday, and people were raiding food stores or supermarkets yesterday, panic shopping, if you will, people across the country, based on unfounded claims spread through misinformation on social media and various other platforms. Now, as we mentioned before, the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy said that there is no fuel shortage in the country and that the CPC will continue an uninterrupted supply of fuel. Also today, Minister Banduna Gunawardena engaged in an inspection tour of the market, the wholesale market in Fort today.
The minister inquired about the prices of essential goods and other products sold at the market. Representatives of wholesale businesses were also present. A discussion also took place with regard to the price increase of turmeric.
There were many claims that the price of items and essential goods had increased. The president instructed me to look into this matter. There is no shortage of food or essential items. There are ample stocks available. There's only a shortage of turmeric and uludu. Apart from these products, we have everything else. The price of a kilo of rice is less than 100 rupees. Onions will be imported from India next week. There is no point in stocking up unnecessarily. We as the government responsibly state, there is no shortage of goods in the country.
Yesterday, decisions were taken to temporarily shut down public schools and also Catholic public and private schools, Dhamma schools and Sunday schools. Let's now take a look at certain other important decisions that were taken today specifically to curb the spread of COVID-19.
All state universities will be closed for a period of 2 weeks from Saturday the 14th of March. The University Grants Commission decided at a meeting held this morning with the Vice-Chancellors of all state universities. Chairman of the UGC, Professor Sampath Amratunga, speaking to Newsfirst, said, this measure was taken considering the safety of students following concerns of the coronavirus. He added that all weekend programs at state universities were also suspended. The Ministry of Women and Child Affairs decided to close down all preschools in the country until the 20th of March. Secretary to the Ministry, M.S. Mahanama, speaking to Newsfirst, said instructions were issued to district secretariats. She said this move was taken considering the safety of small children amid the concerns over the coronavirus. A set of guidelines has also been issued to ensure safety at daycare centres. The Secretary noted daycare centres have been instructed not to admit children with fever and to clean their hands with the use of sanitizer at all times. The Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment announced that Sri Lankans are restricted for leaving for foreign employment until COVID-19 is brought under control considerably, and this decision is valid until further notice. According to a statement, this decision was taken as a supportive measure for the quarantine process implemented at national level, adding restriction of local and overseas movement of migrant population is a must in the endeavour.
Now, the National Tour Guides Association also convened a media briefing today to speak about certain matters surrounding the corona pandemic in the country.
When Sri Lankans arrive at Sri Lanka, they are being quarantined. That is a good thing. But when tourists come into the country, there is nothing like that. They are only checked at the airport. As a tourist, if he has a slight fever before boarding the flight, he will not think about the coronavirus. If he takes 2 paracetamols when he lands at the airport, he won't have that fever anymore. In the profession that we are employed in, we act as agents and have direct contact with them. So you can trace where they have visited and track their path. There is another tourist market. It is known as the FIT market, the free and individual traveller. They do not register anywhere. They look at travel guides and go everywhere and anywhere they want to. Although we might be able to identify a person who contracted the virus, in such a case, the source of the virus can only be identified in about 2 weeks. More than the economic benefit to the country from the tourism industry, I think a temporary suspension of all arrivals is a must. Anyway, we are in the off-season. Although we are suffering massive losses, even members of our families are asking us not to go. Even the people around us are looking at us differently. So I think we request the authorities to take action on this soon. We are calling for a suspension. There are experts in the field. They can discuss and suspend this for 1 or 2 months.
දැම්මම ඇක්ෂන් එකක් ගන්න සස්පෙන්ෂන් මේ මාසයකට හෝ දෙකකට ඒගොල්ලන් විද්‍යුතුන් ඉන්නවා තීරණය කළා මේක සස්පෙන්ඩ් කරන්න.
පාසල් වහන්න පුළුවන් නම්
If schools can be closed and if ships are barred from reaching the shores, then why cannot this be done? This should be done. We are willing to make sacrifices as it is we who will be affected economically by taking this action. Our family lives will be disrupted. However, there is no problem in that. But one can point fingers at us because several individuals benefit through this industry. This includes large and medium scale entrepreneurs. They will be affected due to this. But the people must survive for them to carry out their trade.
බඩට මේක වදිනවා. හැබැයි මේ ඔක්කොම කරන්න අපිට රටක් මිනිස්සු ඉතුරු වෙලා ඉන්න ඕනේ.
Having a proper understanding regarding the coronavirus is important to manage our response to this global pandemic. Of course, what better institution to get advice from regarding this global pandemic than the supranational organization that is at the helm of ensuring the health of global citizens. The World Health Organization today issued a video to create awareness regarding COVID-19 and the precautions that the general public should take in order to curb the spread of the virus. Let's take a look at that video.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Now, of course, Newsfirst has launched a web portal to keep you updated with the latest developments of the coronavirus outbreak, especially here in Sri Lanka. So for more information or accurate information that is released by proper governmental organizations can be accessed via our website www.coronavirus.lk. That is www.coronavirus.lk. Now, the latest news updates and the statistics concerning the virus right here in Sri Lanka will continue to be posted on this website, up to date as and when we receive this information. Now, at present, there are several websites operating from various parts of the globe carrying updates on the spread of the coronavirus, and therefore, Newsfirst decided to set up this website in a bid to facilitate all Sri Lankans to obtain accurate information in this regard and to prevent Sri Lankans from believing and acting upon misinformation that has been based on unfounded claims and spread through social media and various other platforms. Now, moving on to the effect that the coronavirus has had on the global community. The coronavirus has been affecting countries both developed countries alike, and also the people who have been affected by the coronavirus include both high-class people and people from the working class as well. Now, a senior member of the Australian government, the Australian Minister of Home Affairs, Peter Dutton, has tested positive for COVID-19. There are currently 156 confirmed corona cases in Australia, including US actor Tom Hanks and his wife, who is in Queensland. Now, Hanks is there with his wife, Rita Wilson, who also has the virus, to make a film about Elvis Presley. And this is the current situation in the global arena.
Russian officials have told journalists who cover Vladimir Putin not to attend official events if they feel unwell. Dmitry Peskov, a Kremlin spokesperson, said that the president's medical care was at a high level but declined to say if he had been tested for COVID-19 himself. The upcoming Champions League and Europa League fixtures have been postponed. Europe's football governing body said the decision had been taken due to the spread of COVID-19 and decisions made by different governments. Premier League football club Everton have put their entire first team playing squad and coaching staff into isolation. The Liverpool-based club says the precautionary measure was taken after an unnamed player reported symptoms of coronavirus. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced new measures under which those with a new continuous cough or high temperature are advised to self-isolate for 7 days. Schools are advised to cancel trips abroad, and over 70s have been told to avoid cruises. Austria is closing schools from Monday until the 4th of April when the Easter break starts. More than 1 million school children are affected. The government wants at least 75% to stay at home. 7 US states are closing schools to try and contain the coronavirus, which has infected more than 1,660 people across the country. India has now decided to postpone its IPL T20 cricket tournament until the 15th of April. The news comes a day after India decided to suspend most entry visas for a month owing to coronavirus. 4 towns have been quarantined in the Catalonian region of northeastern Spain under government order in an attempt to halt the spread of coronavirus. More than 30 of those affected are healthcare professionals. People in a locked-down Italian town have been filmed singing together out of their windows to keep their spirits high.
And you're up to date on the latest surrounding the coronavirus, both here at home and across the globe. A kind reminder to all our viewers out there, please do act wisely and help the authorities respond positively and to face this coronavirus outbreak successfully in this country and ensure the safety of you and your loved ones and our country as well. It's back to the main studios with Bernadine Chasing. Bernadine, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shalan, for that comprehensive report. Now, in more local news, Colombo Stock Exchange halted trading for 30 minutes for the second straight session today. This was the third time in a week as an index of most liquid stocks. The S&P SL20 dropped below 5% as global markets down on coronavirus fears. The Colombo stock market today saw a further 64 billion rupees in value write-off, bringing the total to a staggering 204 billion rupees since last Friday as investors reacted negatively to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic largely.
The S&P SL20 index fell 5.04% of 115.6 points to 2,178 points when trading was halted around 10 a.m. local time. But the index ended slightly recovered 3.82% weaker at 2,205.97 points. The benchmark Colombo All-Share Price Index ended 2.89% weaker at 4,874.73 points, dropping below the psychological barrier of 5,000 points. Market showed a foreign net outflow of 120 million rupees. Daily turnover was at 1.05 billion rupees.
The market triggered its 5% circuit breaker for the third time due to panic selling by both local and foreign investors as a result of the pandemic condition, with the market drop being over 8%, where total average turnover amounted to rupees 834 million and net foreign sales amounting to a value of rupees 385 million.
Sri Lanka cricket announced today that England's Test series against Sri Lanka was postponed indefinitely following talks with England Cricket Board due to concerns on COVID-19.
Issuing a statement, the England and Wales Cricket Board said the decision has been taken after considering the impact of the coronavirus in Sri Lanka and England. The Test series between England and Sri Lanka was scheduled to begin on the 19th of March in Galle. The England and Wales Cricket Board's decision comes after it was announced the start of the 2020 Indian Premier League season had been delayed from the 29th of March to the 15th of April.
Is there a decision to hold general election? Journalists made inquiries from Chairman of the National Elections Commission following a meeting in Badulla today.
To hold the April 25th elections, we must first protect all our citizens from the coronavirus. It won't be postponed. Let's follow the government's instructions and go for quarantine as asked. We have discussed with several political parties and they have said that they will not hold rallies for 2 weeks, and some parties said they will not hold rallies until the 26th of March.
7 suspects in the central bank treasury bond scam, including Ravi Karnanayaka, with warrants against them, appeared in the presence of Fort Magistrate Ranga Disanayaka following an order issued by the Court of Appeal this morning.
Fort Magistrate Ranga Disanayaka ordered documents proving their presence in court to be handed over to the suspects. He also pointed out the magistrate has no authority to issue orders regarding the suspects who were present in court on orders issued by the Court of Appeal. However, the 9 suspects of the case, Director of Perpetual Treasuries Arjahan Punchiheva and former Governor of the Central Bank Arjuna Mahendran, were not present in court today. A writ application filed by Ravi Karnanayaka and 3 others filed with the Court of Appeal was called up for consideration this morning in the presence of a 3-judge bench comprising of Court of Appeal President M.D. Nawaz and Justices Shiran Gunaratna and Sobita Rajakaruna. The petition will be called up again on the 17th of March for further consideration.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna convened a media briefing today.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna has joined hands with 16 parties and 22 civil organizations. Therefore, arrangements have been made to contest the election under a broad alliance. Therefore, our victory is certain. 99% of the work relating to the nomination list has been finalized. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and Maithripala Sirisena are among those contesting the election. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has informed in writing to Basil Rajapaksa, who chairs the nomination board, to avoid the inclusion of those facing allegations of corruption in the nomination lists. We have been informed of certain individuals who will not be given nominations due to this. We have targeted victories in the Nuwara, Trincomalee, Ampara and Vaunia districts, in which we lost during the last election. If we can register victory, then we can easily win between 137 to 138 seats in Parliament.
වර්තමාන මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන වර්තමාන ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ සභාපතිවරයායි ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ කණ්ඩායම අතර පොදුජන පෙරමුණත් එක්ක තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නයක් යනවා කියන කතාව කියනවා. මේ ඡන්දක්‍රමය ඇතුලේ
Under this electoral system, there will be a tussle for preferences if a father and son contests at the same time. This problem could have been solved if the senior members of the party had chosen their words wisely.
හරියට කරා නම් ඔය ප්‍රශ්නේ විතර හොදි බේර ගන්න තිබුණා. දැන් ඊයේ හිටපු ජන
While former President Maithripala Sirisena signed the nomination papers for the Polonnaruwa district yesterday, Basil Rajapaksa was present. I feel that the nomination list for the Polonnaruwa district was finalized without any issues.
ඉෂ්ට කරලා තියෙන බව තමයි මට පේන්නේ.
Today is the second day of the 141st Royal Thomaian Battle of the Blues, the second longest uninterrupted cricket series in the world. At stumps this evening at the SSC, batting their first innings, Royal College were 127 runs for the loss of 4 wickets.
St. Thomas's College Mount Lavinia started off with their overnight score of 272 for 6 in their first innings. The Thomians were all out for 369. Charlene DeMel top scored with 85 while Ryan Fernando scored 70. Gavin Botheju scored 54 runs. Skipper Tevini Regama was bowled out for 47. For the Royalists, Gishan Balasurya took 2 wickets for 66 runs while Kavidu Patiratna took 2 for 85. Kamil Mishara and Kaushan Kulasurya opened the Royal innings. Kulasurya was bowled out for 31 and Kamil Mishara scored 32. Ahan Wickramasinghe was dismissed for 24 runs. For the Thomians, Kishan Munasinghe took 2 wickets for 38 runs. At stumps, Ishwara Disanayake was at crease for Royal with 6 runs. The lads from Reed Avenue last laid their hands on the prestigious D.S. Senanayake Memorial Shield in 2016 under Gishath Panditaratna, and the lads from the School by the Sea secured a much-awaited win last year after 12 long years under Sitara Hapuhinna. Tomorrow is the third and final day of the 141st Battle of the Blues.
With that, we wrap up Primetime News. I'm Bernadine Singha, and tonight's interpreter, Tarika Gabriel. Take care. Good night.